Hello everybody, my name is Estrange Eli and welcome to another video. To kind of wrap up Pride Month, when this video comes out on Sunday, it will no longer be Pride Month. Anyways, to wrap up Pride Month, I decided to tell you a story about some of the Pride events that I went to, and more specifically, the most recent Pride Parade I went to, just because I wanted to go ahead and kind of tell more stories, especially ones relating to Pride. So, let's just hop right in. The first Pride event I went to was actually the one where I got my pan flag, and that was the Portland Pride thing. It wasn't a parade, actually, it was just a kind of festival, and I wouldn't even really much call it a festival because it really wasn't as big as that, but there was a lot of Pride related booths, and they also had bunches of people handing out condoms, and I would keep like walking back and forth, purposely kind of crossing past them because they would give me bags of condoms, and so I ended the day with like at least 70 plus condoms, and they're all just like chilling out in my drawer. In fact, let me grab. But yeah, as you can see, there's a couple here. There's these kind of 2-packs here. A bunch of these ones, and yeah, there's condoms from radio stations, and I think there's these are lube. Oh shit. Well, anyways, but you get the point. So that was kind of my first Pride event, and that was one of the ones that like really cemented my knowing that I'm pansexual, because there was a little booth there that was talking about like first clues, and it was basically the whole point was that you took a picture holding the sign that described the first kind of clues that would tell you that you weren't a heteronormative person, and the one that I had wrote about was about playing a game of Pretty Princess, which was this princess related dress-up game that was a board game that I would play with my cousins, and I remember loving it, and I remember playing it a ton and always being excited to play it whenever I would hang out with my cousins. And so that was what I kind of wrote down as one of my first clues about being non-heteronormative. And so that was a really cool event, and that really helped, like I said, cement this knowing. Fast forward to a couple of weeks back, I was in Astoria hanging out with my girlfriend, and I specifically went there during one of their Pride weekends, which was like the 9th through the 12th or whatever, and they had a block party, which was very similar to that festival, but on a much smaller scale, just because Astoria is a less densely populated town, and instead of focusing so much on Pride stuff, they had some, but it was more of like food and music and just kind of like a safe place to be gay, and that was really fun. But then the following day, they had the actual parade, and so this is where things get a little bit interesting. My girlfriend and I decided to both do our makeup, and we wanted to do some Pride related stuff for our makeup and do pansexual colors, and so I'll throw up a picture so you can kind of see what we're talking about. And we got our pan flags both off our walls and on her ceiling, and we went down to go watch the parade. And we were hanging out with one of Harmony's friends, Mal, who is bi, and we were just kind of like hanging out, and we were like, okay, let's go watch the parade. And we walked all the way down the kind of like pier boardwalk thing in Astoria, and we finally made it to the end. And Mel, who knows a lot of people in Astoria, immediately pointed out some of her friends that I'm assuming, knew from school. And she was like, hey, and we were talking there for a second, and then we kind of got there almost immediately as the parade was starting. And so as Mal was talking to them, we kind of just got into the parade, and normally there's all these groups and they have members that kind of register to get into the parade, but we met these two girls that Mal knew, and we just kind of basically snuck into the parade. We had a chance to actually walk in the parade. Now, in terms of chanting, there wasn't really any sort of like chants, but it was really cool to kind of walk past all these people. There was a brewery that was open to the air that they kind of like rolled up these big garage doors and had people sitting outside. And on top of that, they also had a drag queen who was standing there and talking, kind of giving color commentary on all of these different kind of floats, and not floats, but different groups and their banners and what they were representing. And it was just just like so fun, and it was so great to just kind of walk. But it was even so myself, Harmony, Mal, and these two girls were kind of just like, we were walking, we were standing there together, and like as groups would stop, we would kind of stop sometimes, but most of the time we would just kind of keep moving. When it got to the end, not to the end of the parade, but when we kind of were nearing towards the last little bits of the parade, we like basically like opened our eyes. You know, we like finally like kind of looked up from each other, and we saw that we were like in the first group that kind of was like the head of the parade, and we were just like walking along, and we like basically like had walked from like the middle / back of this parade line all the way to the front, and it was just like so funny that we had just made it all the way to the, as Mal would say, like the boss level of the parade. And then we got to the end, and we kind of like talked a little bit more about the, you know, to these girls that Mal was friends with, and there's not really any big conclusion, but it was just funny that we had this experience of like getting all the way up to the front of this parade, of this big kind of train, and but it was a lot of fun. Anyways, guys, I know that this is kind of a short one, but like I said, Pride Month has already ended at the time that you were seeing this. I have a couple actual scripts in the works right now, and I'm trying to kind of pick up some different acting friends, and we're going to be actually working on stuff starting pretty soon. So I do recommend that you subscribe and kind of stick around to see what's coming up in the future. But this is going to be the end of the video. So if you like this video, go ahead and leave it a thumbs up on this video. And if they bring back the rating system, go ahead and give it 5 stars, but we all know they won't. In the comments down below, tell me about your Pride experiences, not necessarily about being prideful of who you are, but just, you know, Pride parades, Pride festivals, blah, 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 all these sort of things. And my Twitter will be floating around somewhere here on screen. Let's talk. I love talking, as it might be clear. And I will talk to you all later.